Great. Thank you very much, Steph. Good morning, everyone. I think it's morning. Smile. It might never happen. Right. But it is a pleasure to welcome you all to the launch of the Sustainable Development Goals Report 2026 and to deliver some remarks on behalf of the SG. It is a little over a decade ago the world embarked on what was a bold, a universal plan of action that was for people, planet, and prosperity. Something that started in 1992, but came to be for the 2030 Agenda in 2015. The SDGs, as you all know, are social, environmental, and economic in their nature. Every goal, from health to education to clean energy, requires that we invest in productive and resilient, inclusive economies. The report is revealing the global picture, but we must not forget what it does mask, and that is outstanding progress on SDGs in some countries, but also serious gaps across regions and countries. Today, thanks to these findings, we can say two things with confidence: that the Sustainable Development Agenda, its 17 goals, work. They are delivering for people, just not fast enough, not evenly and more inclusively, and there are a huge risk of reversals. This year's report tells both stories. First, let's have a look at the story on the progress for human dignity in our societies. Since 2020, the global unemployment rate has seen a steady recovery, dropping to a record low of 4.9 in 2025. In the last decade, nearly 1 billion more people have had access to drinking water. There are increasing numbers of women in our parliaments, in local governments, and on boards, nearing the 30% target, about 27%. 9 people in 10 now have access to electricity. Children under 5 are surviving who a decade ago would not have done. 34 countries have already met the target of under 5 deaths. AIDS is claiming a third fewer lives. More people than ever have something to fall back on in terms of social protection. And almost 3 in 4 people now have access to the internet, up from 2 in 5 in 2015, evolving rapidly. These successes show us that real progress has not only been made, but it's been made because of the political will, the sustained investment, and international cooperation around a framework that is working, the SDGs. We also know far more than we did in 2015, thanks to an important enabler, data. We measure more, we measure better, and with greater precision than we've ever done. And what the data shows is that progress has not reached everyone everywhere. Those gaps now risk widening as the world faces serious headwinds, and this is the other part of the story that this report tells. The conflict in the Middle East has rippled through the global economy. It's been disrupting maritime traffic, tying up energy, fertilizer, and food corridors, and driving up inflation. In Gaza, war has undone 77 years of human development, and for several years now we've seen some of the hottest summers on record. Across the world, we are fast approaching the temporary overshoot of the 1.5 degree limit. And in the same year that military spending reached $2.9 trillion, development assistance suffered its steepest fall on record, while the annual SDG financing gap still stands at $4 trillion a year. These headwinds are exacerbating the progress being made, and we're not meeting the demand of our growing populations across the world. Only 36% of assessable targets are on track or making moderate progress. 1 young person in 5 is without a decent job and no place to learn, and among them are twice as many young women and young men. Food security has improved only marginally, and the world is nowhere near ending hunger by 2030. Decades of progress in reducing poverty and hunger can be reversed in a matter of months by a pandemic, a conflict, or a climate shock, as we have witnessed. This report also counts 273 million children that are still out of school. 1 woman in 3 who have experienced violence, a share that has barely moved in 20 years. People with disabilities face discrimination at 3 times the rate of everyone else, and many are missing from the count altogether. But let me be clear, this is not a failure of the goals. The goals are sound. They were designed over 4 years, consulted. This is an inclusive agenda. And where they have been backed by political will and resources, they do deliver. But we have a deepening crisis on the means of implementation. Many countries are being asked to deliver on promises without the tools to keep them. Financing gaps, debt pressures, weak cooperation, and unequal access to technology and data are slowing the progress. We need an urgent reform of the international financial architecture to better support developing countries, and that does include scaling up the lending capacity of the multilateral development banks and delivering meaningful debt relief to least developed countries and small island developing states. Our frontier technologies, including artificial intelligence, can accelerate development, but only if they close divides rather than entrench them. And I think it's worthy to note here that in 2015, this was not an issue that was being discussed. It wasn't on the agenda. There's not a goal for that. But we do need the digital public infrastructure, the investment in connectivity and skills, and the genuine technology transfer that can put these tools in the hands of many and not just in a few. The same is true of data. The Medellin framework will strengthen the systems that tell us who is being reached and who is not. Finally, 3 commitments underpin all of this. Advancing gender equality is an enabler of every goal. We've always said that Goal 5 was the docking station for every other goal. Accelerating the transition to renewable energy, and we've had opportunities of that. We've seen where the energy security crisis from the war in Iran has given us an opportunity to scale up the renewable energy transition. And putting peace first by investing in the instruments of development rather than the ever-rising military spending. None of today's defining challenges can be solved by countries acting alone. The evidence presented in this report makes one thing unmistakably clear. The Sustainable Development Goals remain achievable if we choose to act together with greater urgency, scale, solidarity and resolve. But that choice must be made now. It must be made with the 4 years to go for a decisive final push to change the trajectory that we are currently on. Thank you.